Okay, our first topic is dealing with the median of a trapezoid, which is line segment XV in this picture, the one going through the middle. The rule is that the median of a trapezoid is equal to the average of the bases. So if I average those bases, add them up, divide by 2, that's got to come out to 44. Since you have a fraction on one side and not the other, make them both fractions. 30 plus x equals 88 when you cross multiply, and x is 58. Now, to check your work on a problem like this, if you look at the picture, there should be a consistent pattern. From 30 to 44, we went up 14. From here to here, we went up 14. Again, even if you didn't know how to do this one, look at the answer choices. It can't be 37, that's too small, and 118 seems way too big, so at least you can get a 50-50 shot of getting it right. The next rules can be found on your pink sheet if you need them. In the picture on the left, you have a secant and a tangent. So the rule is outside times whole equals tangent squared. The outer piece is 4. The whole thing is 9. Remember to add them together. Equals x squared. 36 is x squared. And x is 6, so choice 4. On the right-hand side, we have two intersecting chords, and the rule for that is segment times segment equals segment times segment. If you look at chord AB, one piece is 4x minus 3, the other is 4. When you plug it in, I would put the 4 out front, that way you remember to distribute. From there, you should get 16x minus 12 equals 6x plus 24. Bring everything to one side, you should get 10x equals 36. And when you're done, it's choice 2, x is 3.6. Again, all of these rules can be found on your pink sheet, so I would recommend studying those tonight. Occasionally you'll see a question that looks like the picture on the left or the one on the right, and it generally has the same answer choices. It wants to know how many common tangent lines can be drawn. So that means you have to draw one line that touches both circles without going through them. So I have the rules at the bottom, but just to show you what they would look like, and if you sketch them on the Regents, you have to use your safety compass or a ruler so they're nice and straight. If I go from here, I can draw one common tangent. On the bottom is another. And then there's one going through the middle. I told you guys in class today that with these adjoined circles, it's almost like if you watch where I'm tracing, you have the 3 shape in there. For the one on the right, the answer is that there's 4 common tangents. We can again do top and bottom. Okay, and I'm doing this quickly so they're not going to come out perfect. But then we can also do this X shape in the middle. Okay, so 4 common tangents on that one. Also on your pink sheet are rules about circle angles. The one on the left, you have 2 intersecting chords. And remember we said it looks like this plus sign shape in the middle? So the rule is half the sum of the arcs, so we would do 87 plus 35. Divide by 2, and you get choice 2 of 61. On the right, it's half the difference of the arcs when you're looking for the angle that's all the way over here. Subtract 70 and 20, divide by 2, and when you're done, you'll get 25. If they give you a triangle that has a little piece of it extended, it forms an exterior angle. So an exterior angle is equal to the sum of 2 non-adjacent interior angles. So I labeled everything properly in the first one. If I add 3x plus 15 and 2x minus 1, it has to come out to 6x plus 2. And we would continue and combine like terms and solve. So 5x plus 14 equals 6x plus 2. And then when you're done, x is 12. The other rule with exterior angles is that it's also bigger than either of those 2 non-adjacent interior. So in number 2 on the right, this is the exterior angle. This is the non-adjacent interior. This is a non-adjacent interior. It's got to be bigger than each of those, so choice 3. Okay, whether you have a line segment or a diameter, which is just a type of line segment, sometimes they give you the midpoint of it, or in this case, the center of the circle, and you have to find the other endpoint. The easiest way to do this is to find the pattern. So look at the x's from -4 to m, and m is always the midpoint. They went up 5, so I've got to go up 5 again to 6. Okay, that way look at it. 1 is right in the middle of -4 and 6. For the y's, up 2, go up 2 again, and you get 7, so choice 1. If you want to check if you're right, do the midpoint formula using A and B. Find the average of the x's, find the average of the y's, and you should get the midpoint they told you in the problem. Okay, whenever you're given a word problem type of question and they give you ratios, you must put x's after them. So for instance, if this is the triangle, the angles aren't 2, 3, and 5, they're 2x, 3x, and 5x. So all of these angles have to add up to 180. So we're going to get 10x equals 180, x equals 18. From there, plug it back into each of the 3 values. So for instance, 2 times x, 2 times 18, is 36. 3 times x, or 3 times 18, is 54. 5 times x will give you 90. So when asked what type of triangle this is, since there's a 90-degree angle, it's choice 4, a right triangle. Okay, anytime you're given similar triangles, the sides are in proportion to one another. So for instance, if this was triangle ABC and this was triangle DEF, it's saying the ratio of the sides AB to DE reduces to 3 to 2. It might not actually be those numbers, but that's what it reduces to. All of the sides are going to stay in the same ratio, so choice 1 is out. Okay, since we're looking for the false one. The perimeter is just the sum of the sides, so that's also out. For choice 3, the area is correct, so if the ratio is 3 to 2, the ratio of the area has got to be 9 to 4. You square both pieces. Choice 2 is also the correct choice because the angles in similar triangles are equal, which means they're in a 1-to-1 ratio. Anytime you're given 2 parallel chords in a circle, it makes those 2 opposite arcs equal to each other. So in the first one, if arc AD is 60, arc BC is also 60. It asks us to find the measure of angle CDB. That's an inscribed angle because the vertex of it is on the center of the circle. That means it's half the measure of the arc it's across from, so half of 60 is 30. For the problem on the right, they give you that AOB is a diameter. AC is 30, which makes DB 30. Since the diameter basically splits a circle in half, the top half has to equal 180, which makes the missing piece 120. In a triangle, when you have a line segment that connects 2 midpoints, it's called a mid-segment. And what that basically means is that each mid-segment is half the length of the side it's parallel to. So what I'm first going to do is break apart each of these big sides. They told us them in the problem, so I labeled them. So if AC is 10, that's split 5 and 5. If CT is 22, both pieces are 11. If the other piece is 18, 9 and 9. We want the perimeter of parallelogram CDOG. Well, we have 2 of the sides, 5 and 11. The other 2, if you look at GO, it's across from AC, which is 10, so it's half of it, which is 5. The same rule is going to apply for DO, so that's 11. So for the perimeter, add 11 and 11 and 5 and 5, and you're going to get 32 as your answer. The other thing to verify is since it's a parallelogram in here, okay, in this area, the opposite sides have to be equal, so we should see the same number on both sides, 11 and 11, 5 and 5. Okay, hills and SAS are used when you have a big right triangle that's split into 2 smaller triangles. I put one of each of these problems on this slide. So for the one on the left, 36 represents the hypotenuse of the big triangle. 12 represents one of its legs. We want to find AD, which is a segment. So I have HL and S, so I'm going to use hills. So hypotenuse over leg equals leg over segment. When I substitute, 36 over 12 equals 12 over x. Cross multiply, and you get x is 4. For the one on the right, I'm going to use SAS because these are segments. This is the altitude. So S over A equals A over S. X over 6, 6 over 4x. Cross multiply, you get 4x squared is 36. Divide by 4. And then square root it, and you have your answer for x. Okay, for the top two problems here, all of the medians of these triangles are drawn, which go from a vertex to the midpoint of the opposite side. As you can see at the top of this page, the medians of a triangle are cut into a 1:2 or a 2:1 ratio, depending on the side you're looking at. For instance, in the first one, PF is x. If you look at that whole median CF, PF is clearly the smaller part, so the other one's got to be double it, which is 2x. In the problem, it also says that he found CF to be 6. So if I were to write an equation, it would be x plus 2x equals 6, which is the same thing as choice 2. On the right, you actually have numbers, so FG is 12. It wants to know the length of GC. Well, it's a 1:2 ratio, so we know we've got to go up and double it, and you get 24. On the bottom, you don't necessarily need the axes for it, but if you're trying to find the centroid, the rule is very similar to midpoint: average of the x's, average of the y's. Only difference is now that you have 3 points, rather than when you do a midpoint, you only have 2. So for the x's, look at the points they gave you. 3 plus 7 plus 11 is 21 over 3. The y's are 3 plus 9 plus 3. So 15 over 3. And when you simplify that, you should get 7,5 as the centroid. These are just some rules that you should know about the diagonals of quadrilaterals because they get asked often. So diagonals are perpendicular when sides are congruent. So think about what shapes have congruent sides. It's a rhombus and a square. So in those two shapes, the middle of them form right angles, okay, where the diagonals intersect. The next one, I just swapped the words diagonals and congruent, put them in the reverse order. Diagonals are congruent when sides are perpendicular. Well, think about what two shapes have perpendicular sides: a rectangle and a square. And the last one, the diagonals bisect each other in all but a trapezoid. All of these quadrilateral facts can also be found on your pink sheet. Okay, those are all of the main topics I had wanted to go over. I would go through and practice any in the green book, okay, that especially those that you got incorrect or any on a quiz that you got incorrect. In addition to that, make sure you study your pink sheet.